Hey, welcome back. Today I'm inspired to share with you some very powerful words that have the power to embody what would otherwise be esoteric notions of enlightenment or some kind of oneness that you might think in your mind exists out here in the universe, but here you are in this body and living this life that's got a lot of drama, and you kind of know better, but you're not feeling it, and you're kind of searching around. So I want to share with you how it got made real for me, and two potent words that kind of worked their way into my behavior, into my outlook, and ended up changing my life. So I may have spoken about saying yes to everything at some point in one of these videos, and it's not what I want to mainly talk about. I want to talk about no. But I'm going to start with yes, just as a bit of a refresher. When you realize that you're being lived more like an instrument, it's a more accurate description of what you are, that your personal agency, even if it does exist, it's not all that you thought it was. It's not you really in the driver's seat all the time, making the decisions and what have you that are going to result in you winning the day of, the better life that you're looking for. In fact, you're like in an ocean of variables. You're being lived by a universe of things. Everything's causing everything. Getting yourself into alignment with that identity is like the bedrock of what I'm offering. But how do you actually live into that? So one way that you live into that is that the fact of the matter is you are being lived by everything in the universe. And so everything is really a teacher and an instruction on some level to you. And by seeing it that way and taking yourself out of the loop of being some kind of decider or responsible party or what have you, there's this tremendous relief that you feel. It's a relief that is indescribable, and you can only feel it when you surrender to this notion that actually I'm not in control. Okay, so I'm not really in control. Let's try that on as an experiment. So what does that look like? So people, opportunities, things that come up out of nowhere, these are things that you say yes to because they're being offered to you by the universe, okay? They're in your wheelhouse. You say yes to them as long as they're not destructive to you, as long as they serve you, or you don't see, from the get-go any issue with saying yes. You go ahead and you say yes. So a friend says to you, hey, you know what? I think you should talk to this guy. I know he's a life coach, and I think you might get something out of it. And maybe your internal reaction is, I don't really want to make that phone call because I've already had paid sessions with an excellent life coach, and I really don't think I need that. But here's my friend. He's suggesting I might get something out of it. And because I'm surrendered to the fact that he's the universe talking to me, I go ahead and I make that phone call. Or somebody, suggests that I might want to come to a get-together they're having on a Sunday afternoon, and it's not necessarily something that I'm, caught up on. Maybe it's about tiny home communities or something that I don't particularly have anything to do with, but they think that I might be a good addition or I might learn something. And so even though I don't really have an agenda there, I go ahead and I say yes. Or somebody wants me to do some job that doesn't really necessarily draw upon my full skill set, but they're a friend and they want me to install a toilet for them or something, and I'm capable of building a whole freaking house or anything else. But they're my friend, they've asked me to do it. I say yes. I put the toilet in. It's fine. No problem. And so I took out this illusionary sense of agency, not just in some mental concept, but actually I went ahead and I said, okay, I don't decide what I'm going to do today. The universe decides, and the universe is in the form of friends asking me for things, or the weather, or whether the car breaks down or not, and it's going to be ridiculous for me to try to get to work or not. I won't necessarily try to overcome something that's going to take some tremendous efforting on my part to overcome, and I won't say no to something that I have no reason to say no to. Okay, so that puts you in the flow. That makes you live into this truth that everything is your teacher, everything is connected to everything else, everything is living everything else. You're in the mix. Your agency is not the primary factor. And so it's a beautiful, in the flow way to live. You just say yes. Just go ahead, try it on, say yes. Okay. But if you really want to get into some extremely well-being, and this has been my experience for sure, you'll see that basically because of your own less than total self-esteem, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to suggest that very, very few people have total self-esteem. Most people have internalized the wounds that they got in childhood from parents that didn't really have anything to do with them, or being dumped by somebody, or going through a horrendous divorce, or it goes on and on. And most people walk around with a less than feeling about who they are. And I talk about that in other videos, and I've got, ways that I was able to correct that for myself. But because people are walking around with a less than total self-esteem, they think it's perfectly normal and reasonable that they would say yes to go ahead and entertain and go ahead and deeply invest in situations that do not serve them 100%. Now, that's been the story of my life up until recently. I could go through all the different ways. Mostly it's in relationships. I would take up with somebody that was, very attractive to me. There was tremendous sexual energy. Maybe we both liked being outdoors all the time, and we liked, we were on the same page politically, and we liked to do fun stuff in the outdoors together, maybe go swimming in lakes and stuff like that. And maybe one or two other little things that, clicked. And yet there would be like glaring red flags. This person's depressed. They're angry because, let's say, people are eating animals and it's basically murdering sentient beings, which, I don't disagree with the outlook. I think it's true that we murder sentient beings and we eat them, and we don't have to. So I agree with the outlook. So I might take up with a person that has that outlook because I agree with it, but it makes them angry. Okay, so they're angry a lot, and you're coming home and they're angry and they're depressed, and like you haven't done anything to make it that way, but this person's beautiful, and you love to be outdoors together and everything. Before you know it, like you're together for like 12 years and you've had children together, and it's not working, and like you look back and you're like, oh my God, like how did I do this? And then you go to the next relationship, and it could the person is got some unresolved childhood wound that's really intense. And so when they're in social situations and they get triggered in that department, they don't really care what they say or do, and they're willing to rupture any relationship with anybody. So you go around with this person, and they're like rupturing this relationship for you and that relationship for you, and and other little things that you've swept under the rug. Or, you're in a job somewhere, and wow, the company's really exciting. It's growing really fast. Got a fantastic expense account. There are all these fun people there that you hang out with after work, and you got this whole like athletic program where you're able to do all these fun things. But you know what? The job you have, you're like locked into this like boring back office job. It's not really using your full talents, and you're thinking to yourself, but my gosh, I'm so lucky to be here in this fantastic company, and it's so much fun, and I've got an expense account, and I've got like 15 paid, I got like 5 weeks, 6 weeks, 7 weeks paid vacation. I mean, how can I walk on this, even though like I go in all day long and what I'm doing is boring? And it's like I handled this challenge like after the first week I was there, and now I'm not challenged and I'm bored, and I've talked to management and I can't get them to, give me more responsibility or give me a better job. And I just stay there because I'm in a great company or whatever. And a year goes by and another year goes by. Okay. All right. What's going on here is that typically we don't get lived hard enough and put up wet enough. We don't get the shit kicked out of us enough. We don't get to the point where we're sick from engaging in a repetitive pattern of behavior that doesn't serve us 100% until we get sick of it. And so we'll do it and do it and do it and do it. And that was a pattern of my life up until about 5 years ago, when finally I got so sick of some of these things that I was doing, especially on the relationship front. I decided to myself, you know what? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no from now on to any friendship, any relationship with a woman, any work opportunity, anything that doesn't serve me 100%, because I am 100% good with myself right now. And frankly, I deserve to not be pinged and tweaked and made anxious or upset by people who are not able to share that with me, or opportunities that are almost right, but they're not really right. The setup, the expectations, the money, the work or whatever, it's not quite right. And it turns out at the end of the day that saying no to everything that doesn't serve you is the way. Because what that means is that you're either on your own resources, alone, finding the joy and the satisfaction that you ultimately are going to have to find in your own self, inside yourself, detached from all these externalities that we all have, going on, jobs, relationships, or whatever. You're either in there, in that place, at work and at play in there, or if you're going to engage, you're going to be met fully. And when you get met fully, whether it's a relationship or a job or whatever, that's when you really start to take off. That's when, you look back and you can't believe how much shit you got done in the last 2 years or 3 years, and your bank account starts to actually go positive, and you're feeling healthy and alive and happy because you're not bleeding off a tremendous amount of energy managing all of the drama and bullshit that you've created by saying yes to situations that are only 60%, 70, 80% of what they ideally would be if you were getting served by them 100%. So it's this kind of dance. Life is kind of this dance. It's not this hard, fast rule. I have to say no to everything, or I have to say yes to everything. Say yes to everything that life brings to you. If you don't have a good reason to say no, go ahead and say yes. Just dive in fully, get lived, take yourself out of the loop, see everyone as an instruction, but make sure that it serves you 100%. If you keep doing things that don't, take the time to find out why you're not loving yourself 100%. Get some help for that, some counseling or whatever you need, and then start only accepting the perfect situations. And you may have to be without for a little while, but the 2 steps forward and then 3 steps back, that ain't happening anymore. It's 1 step forward and another step forward and another step forward. And before you know it, you've got a confidence inside of you, because now you have this pattern of successful behaviors that serve you. You're not attracting shit show weirdness to you. And you begin to manifest in the physical way and in your externalities in your life. There's this confidence, and it's reflected in your conditions, which are drama-free. Everything is just nice the way it is. Your ordinary is now extraordinary. It's not laced with a lot of toxicity or what have you. So, yes and no. Got a lot of power. All right, thanks.